This week on Jersey Matters, a powerful congressman in New Jersey is going to have a primary challenge, and he's a Democrat. Also, meet a man who is trying to change the world one garden at a time. And meet the cast from the hit musical, Jersey Boys. But first, a few words. New Jersey's public employee pension fund is drastically underfunded, and it keeps going the wrong way. Moody's cites this depleted fund as the reason New Jersey's credit rating keeps going down, making it difficult for the state to borrow money. So we look to our elected officials in Trenton to do something about the shortage, but they simply lack the political will. Why? Because there's hundreds of thousands of people in the state, hundreds of thousands of voters in the state, who are either on a public employee pension or are expecting that pension, including our elected officials. So pay close attention on Tuesday to all of the candidates on the ballot and find out how they're going to fix the pension problem. And if you make the wrong choice, well, then your taxes will continue to go up to pay for that. And now, our interview with the man who manages the pension fund, Tom Byrne, State Investment Council Chairman and founder of Byrne Asset Management, also the son of former Governor Brendan Byrne. Thank you so much for being here, sir. As part of your job, you are overseeing the management of the pension fund.
Yeah, it's a volunteer board of about 14 members, and we oversee the investments. We have a great staff in Trenton that handles the day-to-day, and unlike most states, we manage a lot of it in-house, which keeps our costs very low. And the staff has added about $100 million per year above and beyond the benchmarks value added to the pension fund. The problem is on the contribution side. The state, as I think most people know, has not contributed what it should over the years, and that's why we have a huge pension deficit today.
Yeah, there's this strange dichotomy, because when you talk about the management of the fund, it's doing well, but
Yes.
you talk about the fund, it's not doing well.
That's correct.
And it is the number one reason that's given by Moody's and other credit bureaus as to why the credit rating of the state keeps going down.
No question.
And then, so the obvious question is, what do we do?
Well, let me give a little bit of context. So the pension fund has $75 billion in assets right now. The state budget, annual budget, is about $35 billion. We pay out $10 billion a year in pension benefits to retired employees. And think about this, if the pension funds melt, which actuaries say we're on a course to do in about a dozen years, how are you going to pay $10 billion out of a $35 billion operating budget? That's the crux of the problem, and yes, that's why we get downgraded. And the issue goes back a good 20 years. The pension commission that I served on, different from the investment council, dealing with how do we fix this, said that the problem goes back to the last 6 governors simply not putting in what the pension actuaries, what the experts said was necessary to put in to keep the system sustainable.
It was interesting, when we were talking before we went on, you were concerned that some people may not be following this, and some people may not understand what's going on with the pension, which surprised me, because, and you tell me if I'm wrong on this, it sounds like it's the number one problem in the state.
Well,
it's
I think people understand there's an issue, but I think the devil is so much in the details. For instance, the experts say that the unfunded liability in the pension system is somewhere between $45 billion and $135 billion. Well, that's a big gap, obviously. And so when I talk about devil in the details, and so nobody knows exactly how big this problem ultimately is, but we know it's huge. It's either huge or insurmountable.
No, and I agree with your assessment, by the way, that I don't think most people understand. I don't completely understand, because it's such a big problem, and I don't think people believe you can really get it under control.
Mathematically, you can. Politically, I'm not so sure. I don't know if we have the political will to deal with it. And politicians have a way of waiting for something to be a complete crisis in until they deal with it. Crisis meaning the pension money is actually gone. Now what do we do? And we simply can't wait that long. One of the metaphors I've used is if you're in a rowboat in the middle of the Niagara River, a quarter mile upstream, doesn't matter how hard you row, you're going over.
You know what the fear is from most people when they hear about the pension fund? They believe you're coming after more of their money, and they're saying, we're already paying the highest property taxes in the country, we're already paying more money for gas now, I can't pay any more to save the pension fund.
Sure. Well, there are two different solutions. There's either more revenue or there are solutions that the commission on which I served talked about, restructuring health care benefits and putting state employees on the Obamacare gold level, which would save $1.4 billion. And then you wouldn't need $1.4 billion in taxes. And the same thing on some restructuring of the pension. Beyond that, on property taxes, there are a lot of things we could do if we really wanted to. If we did the same health care changes at the local level and there were no other variables, you'd save $2.5 billion on health care costs alone against $28 billion in statewide property taxes. That means no other variables. You have a 9% cut in property taxes right there. And you could go on from there. I mean,
but you believe the current pension system is sustainable. You believe that somebody that's 22 years old, like Kim Guadagno said in the debate, 22 years old can have a pension when she retires.
It's sustainable if politicians act in a timely manner. It's not sustainable if they wait until the pension money has run dry and then try to fix it. By then, the operating budget simply won't be able to withstand payout obligations that large.
What's wrong with going to a 401k?
A 401k, there's nothing wrong with it. It's simply that the Pension Commission decided that there are better options, that a 401k plan puts unsophisticated investors in the deep end, and academic studies show that what they tend to do too often is either keep all their money in cash so it doesn't grow with inflation, or they put it all in stocks and panic at exactly the wrong times. And so we've proposed a hybrid plan where their money is still professionally invested, and it's really only modest changes from a pure defined benefit plan. We just think that serves people better.
That's not what's happening now?
Right now it's a pure defined benefit plan. And effectively, taxpayers are underwriting a guaranteed 7.65% annual return on investments. Nobody else in the world gets that. And so we're saying that there should be some guaranteed return, but at more of a market rate and something that's more consistent with what the rest of the world gets.
I brought up both candidates.
Yeah.
Do you see any hope in either of the candidates for saving the pension fund?
Well, I like to think there's always hope, and I also like to think that there's a difference between political rhetoric and what happens once a person is in office and has to confront these things. It's been said, I think, by Mario Cuomo that you campaign in poetry and govern in prose, and we have to hope that the prose is good at the end of the day.
You're saying we have to hope that, so you don't like what you're hearing right now?
Well, I think that I would like to see somebody fully embrace what our pension commission recommended, because I think we had some of the top actuaries in the country, math wizards, do this, and we came up with a plan that's absolutely sustainable.
You sound like you're running for office.
Well, I thought about running for office, and I couldn't compete with somebody who's worth hundreds of millions of dollars and who's a personable guy and energetic, and we'll see where it goes.
You would like to run for office, though?
Well, I've wanted to this time, yes. As time goes on, I've built a really good business. I love doing it. I'm a pretty happy guy. We'll see.
4 years, maybe?
Well, who knows? That's a long time.
Do you want to follow in your father's footsteps?
I did. As I say, I thought seriously about it this time. It didn't play out the way I had hoped, and I have a pretty nice life. There's
no benefit of announcing now. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate you coming in. Tom Byrne, State Investment Council Chairman and founder of Byrne Asset Management. Still to come, this young man has taken on one of the most powerful congressmen in the state. Find out who he is when Jersey Matters continues.